just wanna relax, don't have time for my friends, no time to chit chat. Problems at my job, wondering what to do. I know I should be working, but I'm thinking of you. And just when I feel this crazy world is gonna bring me down, that's when your smile comes around. Ooh, I love the way you hold me. By my side, you'll always be. You take each and every day.
So a few weeks back, I was sitting in the airport and I was reading the book, What Happens When Women Say Yes to God. I was sitting at the gate waiting for my flight and was feverishly reading through it and taking notes. But I have to admit, it took me a little while to get into this book. I kept putting it down and picking it back up, and it was hard to get into for me. But I believe it was God's timing in what I'm about to tell you guys. So, you know, it's funny because I was sitting there and I was just reading away and I was writing, you know, in my handy dandy notebook, and but I stopped myself and kind of was like, what are you doing? You're sitting here writing down the book basically chapter by chapter. And I just got these new pens and I really love them. I love a good pen. And so I didn't think too much about it because that's kind of just my type A personality to do that. But so I was just writing and noticed at the gate that there was this Franciscan priest, and I was like, oh, maybe God will have me sit next to him, because I have a lot of questions about God and just really wanted to pick his brain. So was, you know, kind of excited about that possibility, and then was sitting there just listening to my music, writing my notes, reading my book, enjoying it, when my foot gets run over by this girl's enormous suitcase. And she didn't apologize, and she just kind of ran over my foot and was sitting there, and I'm thinking, okay, that was kind of rude, but I didn't think anything of it, and just kept on going. We boarded the plane, and I was sitting there and saw the priest coming down the aisle, and I got really excited thinking, okay, he's gonna sit next to me. He kept going, not apparently who God wanted me to sit next to that day. Instead, the girl who ran over my foot, this pretty redhead, she ended up sitting across the aisle from me. I'm like, okay, that's cool, no big deal. So, you know, throughout the flight, I'm continuing to take notes. I'm on about chapter 5, 6 at that point, still writing. And around chapter 8, you know, I kind of start tuning in to her and listening to her conversation that she was having with her friend. And, you know, she was complaining about her husband and complaining that he didn't have a job, and that he was, all he did is stay at home and read the Bible all day, and that he keeps telling her that God will provide for them, and literally she did that. And you know, so I kind of, my heart kind of went out to this guy, and she's very young, so I'm thinking she's probably newly married, and she was just complaining that he only gave her $25 a week for her allowance, and that she just wishes she could go out and buy whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted. And the chapter that I was on at the time was giving up what was never ours. And, you know, the Lord spoke to me and spoke and said, you got to give her this book. And I'm like, really? This is my book. This is my book. I bought this book. I need this book for LeadHer. We're reading this. This is part of our reading. I need this book. And he's like, no, this is not, you give her this book. So I sat there and went back and forth and was like, really, I really don't want to give her this book. But so I'm like, well, what about if I just rip out this page and give her this page? Because this page has all the information she needs to hear on this page. No, not the solution. Give her the book. So I end up saying, fine. I write my name, my information in the back of the book, and I wrote to her, I hope that this book is as much of a blessing to you as it is to me. And thinking I was done and I had absolved to, I will give her the book, he then tells me, give her what's in your wallet. Give her the money in your wallet. And at the time, I had no idea how much money I had in my wallet. First of all, I'm unemployed, okay? I don't need to be giving anybody anything. But I reached down and I look at my wallet and I had exactly $25. I had a 20 and a 5. Essentially her allowance, ironically enough. So I slide the money in the book, and I end up sticking the book in my purse. Secretly, not gonna lie, hoping that maybe the money will fall out. Just saying. But I really had a hard time going back and forth between, do I do this? She's gonna think I'm a nut job. You know, I know she needs to hear what's in this book. Her husband will be very excited for her to hear what's in this book. But it was really, really hard. I thought about, you know, is this pleasing to God? You know, and obviously he was commanding me to do it, so I didn't know what to do, and I was having a hard time getting up the courage to actually do it. So I stood up as we were at the gate, and I actually got her bag down for her, same one she ran over my foot with, and followed her off the plane. And as she stopped by the magazines, I stopped, grabbed the book out of my bag, handed it to her and said, I know this is gonna sound completely crazy and weird, but you know I was like, you know when somebody tells you to do something, God told me to give this to you. So I gave it to her and I ran. Honestly, if she read it, great. She could have just taken $25 out and thrown the book away. I don't know. But all I know is that God was telling me to do something, and when God says to do something, you do it. And I was obedient in doing that. What I then realized too is I am not without my book. The entire time that I was writing in my journal, chapter by chapter notes on the book, I essentially wrote the book down. So my copy, my version, is just handwritten at this point. So giving up what was never ours is sometimes a really, really good thing.